welcome to the Should I Play This Game podcast number 322 for the 7th of July 2025. As always, joined by Steve and his plucky... I was going to say
the Duck Detective is here once again.
Duck Detective. I was going to say Plucky Squire, but that's not the right game at all.
That's not even... Yeah, I don't think there's any ducks in the Plucky Squire. Although you can pluck feathers from a duck.
Mm.
And you can also rhyme other words with the word duck too.
Mm.
Like fire truck.
Yes, indeed.
Well, there we go. Words that rhyme with duck.
So you're on leave from school this...
I am, officially not on holidays until this goes up.
Oh, yes. But you're no longer having to go to school next week, is the
No, I have 2 weeks off.
Excellent.
And at this stage, I have at least one game planned. That being Claire Obscura. See if it lives up to the hype. That's the number 1 rated open critic game of 20 and 25. What is currently number 2, I don't think either of us are going to play, which is Death Stranding 2. But number 3 might show up in our list of games. Ooh. Fucking Death Stranding 2 knocked it. What goddamn... I'm astounded by how positive people are being about Death Stranding 2, to be honest, because everything I've seen is like, hey, remember Death Stranding 1? This is kind of like that, but it's in Mexico and Australia.
People like Death Stranding 1, didn't they?
It was far more divisive review-wise than at least from memory.
Yeah.
But you carry boxes around. And Hideo Kojima has a lot of famous friends.
Indeed.
I wish I had famous friends. But instead, I am the famous friend! God damn it! How's tricks?
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
Yeah.
Let's get the bad news out the way.
Yeah.
We've got it's the most recent bad news in gaming. Let's put it that way, rather than it's being specifically just this one-off thing.
I was gonna say it's not like this is. This is not, we haven't had one of these for a while though.
We haven't had one of these for a while, especially of this scale.
Nothing of this scale for years.
So Xbox/Microsoft announced a whole range of layoffs earlier this week. Some 9,000 people will be laid off.
Not just across their games division.
That's why I said Microsoft. Microsoft will laid off 9,000 people. A large chunk of those obviously will come out of gaming. So it's not a breakdown exactly what numbers are where, but that's going to be across the entire company.
Yes.
We have heard, as I said, we're not sure which, as in how many out of each studio that Microsoft owns have been let go, but we do know that the studio behind the Project Dark reboot, the initiative,
yes,
that game is now dead and buried.
Yep.
Which kind of explains what wasn't seen at the showcase
a
couple of months back. Not that I was expecting that to be the reason it wasn't shown, but there we go.
There are a few people kicking about going, yo, that trailer they showed last year, fuck that, would look fake as fuck. And like in retrospect, it's like, well, did it? And then I saw some other story where it was like, it worked just enough
to
make that video. I was like, wait a minute. That thing's been kicking for 5-6 years at this point.
Yeah, yep.
And it's been run into issues all over the joint.
The other one to get the can was the Rare Everwild game that was announced 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
Over 6 years ago, apparently.
6 years ago. Jesus Christ, was it that long ago? So, yeah, obviously a lot of companies have had cuts made to their teams. Games that we thought were coming out will no longer come out.
Yep.
We don't know which other games have necessarily been.
There was one other.
Not necessarily cancelled per se, but other games might be scaled back now in terms of they don't have the resources to do what they were going to do.
There was a ZeniMax MMO that hadn't been announced that is now shit canned.
A game that wasn't announced
Oh!
Of the games that we knew about.
There we go. Yes, sorry. Right. Okay. Yep, right. I misunderstood. I was skimming the article while you were saying that, and I was like, hang on, there's at least one more game that got mentioned.
The other thing, too, is that the straight Forza Motorsport is apparently no more. So it's just Horizon from now on. No idea when the next one of those will be, because it theoretically probably should have been this year, but it wasn't announced, so who knows?
I wonder if they announce it at Gamescom.
Not unless they're working.
That would be really bad. Hey, check it out. We fucked off nearly 10,000 people, but new Forza Horizon.
So there's obviously a lot of. It's bad. Is the upshot. Like this is not, as I said at the top of the show. It's on top of this little bit we did. It's not unique.
No.
There's been massive redundancies at Unity. PlayStation, Riot. This is not the first lot of layoffs from Microsoft either, so this is not alone.
I think this is the third off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It's definitely the second that I'm aware of. So, so yeah, it's bad. Is the upshot.
Pour one out. I'm not actually going to pour anything out because that would make a mess. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what the what's I'm looking for. What's the fix? I mean, I think there's probably getting more of these. I think is the upshot. I think is what's going to happen, not just from Microsoft, from elsewhere. This is not. I don't think this is necessarily unique to the gaming. This is a tech industry issue more than anything.
Yeah.
I think because it's Microsoft. Well, they are a tech company. They've got a whole range of products that we know about. Obviously, Xbox is
putting
one
a
of them.
metric fuck ton of money into AI, quote unquote.
AI they're doing, which is obviously going to save them some money down the road. They expect that's why they're doing the money into it now. One assumes.
What's your view on the whole quote unquote AI stuff? Anyway, like, is it going to be the saving grace that all these companies are talking it up to be? Because you, correct me if I'm wrong, you work with a lot of sort of computers, like systemic computer stuff and things like that in your job.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that AI has potential, no doubt. Having said that, the term AI, like, it's what the current buzzword is for it. The concept of what AI does has been around for freaking decades.
We've seen it in games since games inception.
Yeah, like essentially.
This is not AI. This is just the shorthand for it.
The procedural generation is a form of AI because that's sort of stuff. But like, so in terms of what I do in my industry, AI's got potential, but there are also lots of companies that are getting into it are being very wary of it because it can be. It's one of those. It could be really good, but it could also be really bad.
Yeah.
My particular industry is health. Now, AI has a lot of potential in health.
Or diagnostically, absolutely.
But it's been around for ages as well. That's not new, in health. But it also could be used very badly in health. So again, it's got to be done properly and ethically and all that kind of
positives
stuff.
and shit like that.
I'm also not sure that the ethics around it is quite there yet. The laws definitely are not. That's for sure.
No.
So that's probably where the biggest concern I've got with AI is.
Well, there was a lawsuit where a number of writers took either ChatGPT or OpenAI to court over copyright. And the decision went against the writers.
Yeah, so
in that
the whole bunch they took Meta to. I think Meta was one of them too.
Yes, no, you're right. It was Meta using their writing to train their LLM,
so their large language model. And yeah, so those writers lost that particular lawsuit. I'm not too sure that it was necessarily. I think the way that from memory the judgment was that they couldn't actually argue
the copyright.
The harm I think was the issue. So I think they had said Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of the sort of ethics stuff. I just think the fact that those large language models have been consuming copyrighted materials for the last 2 or 3 years to get to
Yeah.
where they are now is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just mentioned the law's not quite caught up with that yet. I don't think it has. So, um, yeah. So I mean, I sort of back to what we were talking about. Yeah, this is bad. There's no way um, Microsoft can get away. Not Microsoft, Xbox/Microsoft can get away
Mm.
with this not being considered bad. They'll spin it like all other companies do, that this means this and X, Y, we can
More
do
agile decision making, blah blah blah. But
whatever their bullshit corporate
yeah,
speak is for this sort of stuff.
it also comes in the shadow of them claiming record profits.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously always be the other part of this, is that companies are always making more and more money,
Mm.
and their drive is to make more money. So that that's capitalism. That's what it is.
Yep.
It is what it is. It ain't going to change anytime soon, if it ever.
Shareholders want to get paid.
Yeah, so they want to get more and more money. So that's what happens. Um, yeah. So as I
Well,
said,
that was
this won't be the last one of these.
no. It's been a constant thing basically since
Yeah.
everyone went back to work after the pandemic.
Yeah. So that's the other thing, and I think that's part of what's happened, is that everyone grew massively during the pandemic because there was the driver there for it.
Yep.
You could justify it because the money was there, quote unquote.
And
Now it's
then
not,
it was there for
basically.
about a year or 18
Yeah,
months. Then
18
everyone
months
went back
after
to
now.
work, and it was like,
Yeah, now it's
oh
all
wait,
gone. Now it's yeah. So that's companies that massively expanded over that period of time were just wasn't the right thing to do, effectively.
Microsoft was one of them because it's not they 70 billion for the Activision Blizzard King, and then another 8 odd for Bethesda.
Mm.
And then obviously when you pick up that much or that many studios, you're going to find inherent redundancies in places and things like that.
Yeah, I mean you don't need to have 6,000 or 6 or 7 HR divisions.
No.
Which is, so that's all those individual companies would have had their own one at some level.
But the talk was those companies were going to operate independently, and Microsoft was just going to
That's not the same as HR being centralized.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's the decision making of what that company, that individual division does is where the independence comes from. But they're all being paid from Microsoft.
Bucket.
Still has to go through the same payroll. Like that's where some of those, like, where you can understand where some redundancies can be made, because you're going to have those crossover things like duplication of services you don't need. I can get that to some degree.
Sales teams, shit like that to an extent.
That sort of
marketing.
Stuff. Marketing's a little bit of the same, but yeah, like that sort of stuff. But when just 9,000 people is not that. So.
Ooh.
So
4% of the total workforce.
Yeah, which is when you consider like 9,000 is a large number. Then you it's only 4%. Fucking how big is the company?
That is not not insignificant number of people, but a relatively insignificant percentage of a workforce.
Yeah.
So there are some other implications for the game space, because obviously that's our main focus. John and Brenda Romero had their teams slashed. John Romero being one of the two minds behind the initial Doom and Quake.
Mm-hmm.
Romero Games. We've mentioned ZeniMax and Turn 10. Questions are being asked about Contraband, which was a game that was announced in 2024 at their Microsoft game, whatever the hell they call it now. It's not a press conference, really. It's just a fucking video.
Mm.
But that's a concern for some people. King, the mobile division, lost 200 people, so about 10% of their workforce.
Mm-hmm.
The talk is that everything shown and mentioned in this year's showcase is safe.
Which you'd like to think so.
Fuck. Well, there was also talk that Phil Spencer went and looked at something. I think it might have been the unannounced MMO that ZeniMax Online was working on. And they had to, quote unquote, literally rip the controller out of his hands because he just kept playing it. And that was like 4 weeks ago. Maybe not 4 weeks ago. I think I might have the timing wrong on that one, but he was very positive on that, and now it's gone. So the decision making on who cut what and where and all that sort of stuff, it's an unfortunate thing that Phil's got to bear, and Phil's got to bear in some ways, because people very much have been seeing him quite positively right up until the last at least couple of different rounds of Xbox cuts, and I think now the knives are starting to turn inwards. Which again, it's not a decision he's making. Like, there's fucking decision makers way above his pay grade.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, look, motherfucker, you need to get rid of some people. It's a fucked situation. Yeah, I don't know. Their obsession with AI, quote unquote AI, or the large language models and stuff like that, arguably questionable. But did you see the story that ChatGPT got beaten at chess by an Atari 2600? No. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on the large language model stuff. DLSS works really well, and that's a form of AI too, isn't it?
Basically.
Yeah, AI upresing and stuff like that. There's elements to that work really well, but like you said, massive ethical concerns, and there's an inaccuracy and an overtness to when you see AI written, large language model written stuff. It's just like, you definitely didn't write this. You just got some fucking large language model to write it.
Well, there's been multiple reporting of lawyers using ChatGPT to write briefs and stuff, and it just makes up cases.
Yeah. Make up cases, make up precedents. Yeah, so the Supreme Court back in 1984 said you could fuck your donkey if you really wanted to, and it was made law. Wait, what?
Yeah,
I don't think you can fuck your donkey because of AI as a title. I'd like it, though. Pull one out. This is definitely not going to be the last of these for you.
Yeah, it might be the last one, but hopefully there won't be anything big that we need to talk about. I mean, we're not...
Who's left to cut?
Oh, I just look. Their employee base is about 230,000 people worldwide.
Yeah.
So.
I just meant just in general, but like Bungie is
Bungie's
reportedly in some tough spots with Marathon.
Marathon, so that's probably on the chopping block. I think the game will come out, but I suspect that if it.
Oh, it's been pushed in. I think either indefinitely or
definitely to late this year, early next.
Yeah.
If not indefinitely. If that then ultimately comes out and doesn't land particularly well, which is...
If it pulls a Concord, then you can almost think Bungie's getting shut down.
Bungie could almost be closed because of that.
Which, what about investment by Sony? They spent $6 billion on Bungie.
Yeah.
And,
So, yeah. Anyway, as you pull one out, hopefully those 9,000 is an awful lot of people to flood into the market.
Fuck yeah.
So there'll be people changing careers, changing industries, whatever, to keep the...
And a whole lot of small independent studios getting formed.
Probably.
Oh. And I think I saw something somewhere else where Blizzard has a StarCraft shooter sort of in the back burner that could be affected by this too. But again,
there's going to be a lot of speculation.
A lot of speculation kicking around, and how much of it can you trust?
Yeah, and games that were never announced getting cancelled, I just go, so I'm sorry, but I have nothing. There's nothing to get, to be disappointed about a game we never saw. So
for all the games we complained about coming out every year, I would wager at least 2 to 3 times that are getting cancelled every year.
Yeah, I mean that's the nature of what I've been led to believe about games development is you do a lot of prototyping, a lot of
prototype concepting, and then all of it, like you take it to them, they go, yeah, no, you're going to work on Madden.
Yeah, because the game is not going to be, who's going to take too much money to make, or take too much time, or whatever, or it's the different type of game they don't want to play. Anyway, so
fucking bummer.
Yeah, indeed. But yes, in terms of the games that you've actually been playing,
let's transition from really a bummer to, well, not a bummer of the same scale, but still kind of a bummer. Sacré, which is a pretty good, I guess, phrase of shock from the French language. I had heard some pretty positive things about this, and it looked really, really nice. Like, you look at the screenshots, there's a really nice animated style to it. So I'm like, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go. And, excuse me, then I played it after we recorded last. Boy, howdy. So it's a very sort of very boilerplate story. Hey, French Revolution, Musketeers, betrayal, revenge on a corrupt king. I bet you haven't heard that kind of story before.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, isn't it? I think the Three Musketeers is literally based on that story.
Pretty much, I think. Yeah, very close
Yeah.
to it.
But like for this sort of game, like it's a very movement based or movement focused platformer. So those sorts of things, you don't necessarily need the best or most interesting of stories. It just needs to be boilerplate and fun to play. The music and sound design's okay. When the game's working and you got the flow going, it controls really quite well. The main mechanic is you're given a blunderbuss, sorry, and that's your main form of locomotion. You do have a jump, but you use the analog stick to direct the blunderbuss shot, and then you get projectiled in the direction or in the opposite direction to which you shot. And that's you have 3 shots. It reloads when you land, and that's where the basis of most of the challenges come in. The problem becomes when it doesn't work, it just grinds to a no fun times for you halt because there's some significant issues around hit detection, both with obstacles, ground terrain. Like I had times where I would nick, or at least appear to nick a spike, hit, die. I would go straight through one, no drums. And there'd be transitions between terrain types, like you'd have bricks leading into a conveyor belt, and there'd be a stumble. And I was like, what the fuck, what are we doing here? So there's some camera focus issues as well. Sometimes the camera just zooms all the way in where you can't see where the fuck you're meant to go. And there's some really fucking infuriating course design choices where it's around, like mostly around challenge levels, which obviously are meant to be difficult because they're challenges, but they would relatively wisely have the entire space that you're trying to navigate as the shot, so zoomed out. But then when you get to a certain area where there's maybe like a saw blade spinning or something like that, land, meow, and you get mowed. I was like, that hadn't done that the entire fucking time. And then because obviously like it'd be having sort of movement patterns as well, you land on a platform that's incredibly small, trying to prep yourself for the next thing, and then fucking die or get hit because you couldn't prep yourself. So it just ended up feeling really unfair. And just trial and error bullshit that just got in the way of it being annoying. Get in the way of it being fun. Which, if your whole, like, the story is not great, it looks pretty good. But if the story's not great and it's a momentum-based platformer where there's inconsistency in the momentum and hit detection, fuck it, does it grind to a halt as far as a no fun time. And then combat's graded as well, where you're graded for variety, but you have 4 or 5 offensive or weapon-based tools. And it, like, sometimes you'll have enemies that like are literally right next to each other because it's on a 2D plane. But let's say you hit them with a gunshot, so you do have a pistol here as well. If you hit both of them, you'll gain 1 point on the grade for killing one dude, but then lose 1 at the exact same time for killing the dude next to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it gets fucking shits me to tear. I was on a challenge point and it just shat me so hard. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, you could play it normally. So you're not engaging with the game from a completionistic perspective, trying to get everything, and you would probably have fun because you're just doing the base momentum, trying to progress through the levels. But anything beyond that, it just gets fucked into the dirt, something fierce. And the gulf of quality is, as a result of what you're intending, makes it too fucked for me to want to stick with it. Okay. I had to read that quite carefully on my notes because I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck am I trying to say there? Yeah, solid, like on its surface. But if you want to engage with it beyond a surface level, yeah, no. Speaking of, well, no, that was about, I was going to say, speaking of games you can engage with on the surface level, that's a bit harsh. Tempest Rising. I did another mission, which was a sort of multi-phase, claim space, defend while researching. And then I ran into some real issues with pathfinding on the units because they would either go fuck off and attack someone on their own, or they wouldn't follow what seemed to be a logical path, although that might have been part of my building placement. Or they would get attacked and just sit there going, duh. And I was like, well, that's probably not good, because normally when particularly offensive units get attacked, they turn around and go, hey, fuck you, and go attack the enemies attacking them. Yeah, there was a level where it just didn't happen. There was a race at the end where there's like, oh, yo, the enemy's building up this massive swarm. You need to get these guys and get them the fuck out. And that was really tense. That was a really interesting ending to a mission. And it's just, yeah, I'm not going to say what else it does at the end of that mission, because I got out with about a minute-ish left on the clock that they put on the screen, which was like an arbitrary sort of 5-minute time limit. And I would wager if you stayed there maybe a little bit longer, some really fucked things would happen. I think it's a really good homage to Command and Conquer, but I think I talked about playing one of the old Command and Conquers a while ago on an episode of this very show, and how fucked that was. But like, I was running into the point where missions were taking hour and a half. And just that, like, deeper, like, as you get deeper into the campaign, obviously missions are going to become more complex and stuff like that. They have said themselves they are releasing doing a third race or third faction, which has come up in the campaign. And gee, that I don't like fighting them. That's a pretty no fun time too. The amount of time it takes to play a campaign mission, it's like, well, okay, this is an hour and a half. I can spend an hour and a half playing things I actually want to play. Not that I don't want to play this. I wouldn't mind finishing it, but it's not that big a growing concern for me now. It's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to play any more of it because it's just giving me the shits. If I was reviewing this, obviously it'd be a different story. But I'm not, so I don't have to. If I was reviewing a game, though, holy fuck, would this get a positive score? The Promise Mascot Agency. I did say last time we talked about this that it was the next game from the Paradise Killer people, didn't I?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. Just as weird, but in a completely different way, because, as I mentioned last time, you are a former Yakuza who gets banished to a bumpkin fuck-ass backwards town to run a mascot agency, because half of the population in Japan in this game are mascots. Not actual people in suits. The mascots are real. Like this crying block of tofu, whose name, as it turns out, is Tofu. They stretched themselves on that one. But like, I finished it. I got all the achievements bar 2, which I'm pretty sure I know what the 2 achievements are, and they're semi-collectible things that are hidden in the environment. Their location only gets revealed on the map when you hit about 97% of them. I'm early 90s, like 91, 92%, and I don't want to drive around needle and haystacking trying to find the last of them. But from a writing perspective, it is fucking incredible. Excuse me. The sort of, not necessarily revenge tale, but there is a bit of a revenge tale to it, but it's the Yakuza style. Not the game Yakuza, the organized crime sort of version. And there's some government corruption stuff going on. There's people revealing themselves to be not who they say they were. All with this sort of backdrop of mascots are cool and we have competitions for them too. Which I'm like, fuck yeah, they are. Let's go. This is probably, I know I said it about First Berserker Kazan. At this stage, this actually is probably my favorite thing so far this year. Just from a sheer writing perspective, playing the actual game. I enjoyed the driving around the environment, finding stuff and go and meet random weirdos and talk to them. But there's a streamer who lives on a farm. So she streams the farming for the Momo army. That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's another very good, like, excellent game from Kaizen Gameworks, which are based in the UK, which I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, fantastic work. Not fantastic work. Hey, more no fun times. Soul Stone Survivors. You like ass games?
Mm.
This is certainly one of those. Like, in kind of not in I've seen a lot of people on Reddit basically going, this is one of the best ones of those. No, it's not. Because most ass games in the last couple of years, particularly in the aftermath of the Vampire Survivors explosion, have worked to do things to add to that formula.
Mm.
Like Gunbot Diplomacy had a really short mission-based structure between 30 seconds and maybe a minute, and you move on to the next level.
Mm.
This is basically, hey, what if Vampire Survivors was polygonal? And you get dropped into an environment, you walk around for a while, you kill a bunch of things, these big elite bosses come out, you kill them, and then you can choose either to go back to the menu, do elite versions, or do an endless mode. There are over 420 achievements. Pretty much all of them are for getting 100% on the maps, prestiging all of the characters and unlocking all the characters, and just shit like that.
Mm.
The only things that are unique on the map to do will be there's these mineral deposits, and you go stand in a circle or move around the circle while that fills another circle of its own, and then it just drops a bunch of in-game current, like upgrade XP crystals.
Mm.
So it looks nice, and initially it's quite a fun sort of power fantasy by just walking around mowing people. But after a while, I'm just sitting back doing this with like left thumb on the stick and just moving around like, this is fucking boring. And I had a run go for 55 minutes.
God.
And it just it ended up getting to a point where I was just doing minimal damage by the time, like close to my end of that run, and I didn't finish it. I died. And I was just very slowly chipping away health, because even though I was getting a bunch of XP, bunch of upgrades, it wasn't up like the treadmill from enemy health was much more linear than the sort of seemingly, I don't know what you would call that, exponential maybe power curve. To the point where I was like, fuck this, and uninstalled it. So yeah, not great. One thing that is fucking great, holy shit, Skin Deep. This is the next game from Blendo Games, as it says right there. Who are Blendo Games? Have you played 30 Flights of Loving? Have you?
No.
So Blendo's games have largely been very short experiences, like hourish, and most of the characters have boxes and squares for heads. Very much more narratively contained experiences. This is their largest project that I've seen, that I've played. I've played a couple of their games before this. It's their most complex and in a fucking fantastic way. You are Nina Passadena, which A, great name. B, this is Nina Passadena here in the key art. You are an insurance adjuster for Meow Corp, MIAO. And each mission, you are being sent to rescue cats from different environments, different ships. They've all been kidnapped by the pirate Num Gang. Yay, Num Gang. Fuck them. And that Num Gang has put a hit out on you for reasons. Those reasons do get explored in the story. I'm not going to say them here. So it's a very stealth-based immersive sim. And it's fairly complex from a systems perspective. Like, your character is barefoot, which has benefits from a movement sound perspective, and that movement sound doesn't seem to give you away. But if there are times where, let's say, you throw a dude out a window and broken glass ends up on the floor of the ship, and you walk over it, you fucking lose health as you're taking footsteps, or you have to stop to pull the glass out. So it works really, really well because there's quite a bit of mechanical complexity to the game itself. So you're left with a very open sort of philosophy of how you approach the actual level. But they've kept the actual levels themselves, the ships themselves, quite small and quite contained. So you're not being overwhelmed by the sheer size and space of the environment you're in. You just have to focus on how I'm going to go not take out these dudes that are on this ship. I'm going to get the cat keys. I'm going to let the cats go. And then you end up having to kill the pirates that they send back up and they're like, hey, you killed our crew. We're going to kill you. And you can either kill all the pirates or you gank the key for the ship that they come in, and then you can piss off with that. So, like, you are given very little information. Like, from what to do, how to do it, all that sort of deal. You have to rely on the information you find in the environment, which is like locating passwords for different functions on the different levels, finding at which you find different written pieces that will tell you or who has the key maybe, or where it might have been left, stuff like that. And so reading of those documents is crucial to being able to succeed, and not just because, yeah, you can shoot people, but you're not going to stand up particularly well in a firefight. But again, because of the constrained environment design, you don't get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of possible information and mechanics. So it actually is designed really, really intelligently to exploit the mechanics it gives you without making you feel out of your depth, but also without completely restricting you in what you can do or just taking you by the hand and leading you everywhere. Like the positive things that people said about Outer Wilds, I feel that about this. It's just like there is a bit of a mystery to unravel, but that just happens level after level. Like, you're given quite a bit of freedom in how you want to approach things. And there's no grading, which is great. You just have a few optional objectives to do, which I've had to look up the location of 2 of the hidden cassettes, and I think that's about it so far. Most of the other stuff I've pretty much figured out on my own, which, if you've listened to this podcast for any extended period of time, you know that these sorts of things I struggle with because I'm like, duh, and I gloss over some things and not others. But yes, very, very good, that thing. Whoop. Something else is very, very good. Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. I finished it. Across like fucking 4 nights. Like 2-ish hours across 4 nights after work. So you've played about an hour and a half, I think, off the Steam count.
Yeah.
I played the demo and I thought the reveal was really, really awesome and super clever, because I thought they'd written it specifically for the demo, which is not the case. But you do find out what the hooks of it are fairly early. The fusing of the match 3 gameplay with the kind of investigative, narrative choice driven sort of experience is done really well, I think. It can, particularly if you're trying to get as much out of the game as possible, and particularly if you're trying to get all the achievements, it can become quite repetitive because you're going to the same location, just picking the next option down in a dialogue tree and stuff like that. So I ended up getting all the achievements. I needed a little help because there were 3 places to go where for a certain trait, and I couldn't remember what those 3 were. So you get traits by making decisions as you're progressing around the mansion. And those traits unlock different, for lack of a better term, dialogue options in different environments. But it's revealed when you, quote unquote, finish the game, the actual story they're trying to tell. I think that's a really neat reveal. So I'm not going to spoil that. I think if you can move past that slightly repetitive feel of going back to the different environments to get the next option, to try out the next thing, this is something well worth playing. If you get ground down a little bit on that repetition, it's hard to recommend. The only thing I could say is just try and get through it. Because the actual writing is super clever. The actual story they end up telling is really cool and, to an extent, kind of touching. And it's just super interesting. And just yet another one of those strange scaffold joints that is very, very unique and interesting in what they're trying to do. But I dig it. I don't know if it'll end up on top 10 at the end of the year. But I enjoyed it enough to basically play it 2 hours a night plus for 4 nights straight. So that's got to say something. Speaking of saying something, Split Fiction. So this is the new Hazelight cooperative narrative experience.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a checkout, which is up on the YouTubes.
Mm-hmm.
This will become a standard fixture for the next few weeks, possibly months.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a position of trying to fucking title it.
Yeah, getting up the name. Yep.
Joseph Fares has talked big game about a lot of the things he's done, or that studio has done. I think this is the closest he has come to realizing that talk. I really enjoyed what we played in the checkout, and I actually really enjoyed the writing too, which It Takes Two had some pretty decent issues with the writing.
I didn't think the writing was bad in It Takes Two. I just think the setting, what they're trying to do, was weird.
I think that they maybe I felt it was maybe a little bit too wrought and overly manipulative or forced manipulative.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is that what it was, but I think that's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
the situation that the writing itself was good.
Yeah,
what they were trying to do what they were trying to do was, I think, was my big problem with that one, and then that
and perhaps
led to
they
good
didn't
writing. So yeah.
They didn't really do as good a job on the characters as they do here. Holy fuck, Mio! What a goddamn character! Which you fucking took straight away, you bastard.
It's the only game on my list. So,
is that just a function of you been busy with work or just other shit?
Other stuff, yeah. I just don't have the headspace for games at the moment, so it is
what
it is. So I mean, I completely agree with you. I think the setup for that game is fantastic.
And it's actually got something to say. Like around that sort of IP ownership and stuff like that.
Some potential things to say. It's not said anything.
Yeah, okay. It's setting it up well right now. It doesn't stick the landing.
Yeah, like it's the backdrop of the very opening cutscene sets the backdrop for what's happening, and as the opening hour or so, hour and a half or 2 hours we've played of it, does set up some interesting stuff around that, which, as I said, is definitely intriguing. But the way in which that game goes from the sci-fi fantasy of Mio to the medieval fantasy of
pure fantasy,
of God, what's the other character's name? Got a brain freeze. Shit.
Yeah, me too.
Is that like Lou or something? No. Oh, Joe. Oh God, what was it? Jesus. Look it up.
I am looking it up. Yeah. Oh shit! I'm looking it up on the screen. Has me. Zoe.
Zoe, can you use something like that? Yeah. So that's like
sort of should say how much we feel about each of the characters though, where we can remember Mio's name like that.
Yeah.
Zoe's name, it took us a bit to remember. Not that she's an awful character. I just think Mio is far and away the stronger character of the two for where we're at.
Yeah, and as we started playing more of it, I started to like Zoe more. At the beginning of it, so I think they'll probably end up getting to a point where they're probably
equilibrium,
on a sort of equal level, at some level. But yeah, I think the game's really good. It looks really good. It plays well.
I was curious how you felt about the actual playing of it, because I know there were times, well, at least it sounded like there were times when we were doing the checkout that you got a bit frustrated in spots.
I struggle with depth perception in games. Always have.
That game doesn't do a great job of depth perception, because there are a few jumps that I missed.
Doing jumps to then try and grab onto a ledge or land on something.
Yeah.
I struggle with that in pretty much any game. Like any game, doesn't matter if you've got a game where you're jumping in 3D, first person, whatever, and you've got to jump onto something, I will struggle with it. It's just whatever.
That's one of the few drawbacks I've experienced in that 2 hours we played it, is that there were a couple of...
There were quite a few sections where that was happening. Like there was a section where we were flying through that, I don't know what it was. We're jumping from ship to ship at some point.
Yeah, it was kind of like a tunnel, but like a space car tunnel.
It was like a space highway or something in the future. Anyway, yeah, we're sort of jumping from ship to ship and that sort of thing. And I found that a bit struggling because I thought, okay, I've got this jump. Oh no, I've missed it. Fuck. It does do a very good job of checkpointing. You basically put you back where you were, so it does that, and it does it quickly. So you're not sort of out of the action for a long time. When it does that. You've got the same mechanic that had in the first, in It Takes Two, in that if
Yep.
you're in a particular section where you're both got to survive it, either it's a battle of
With
some
different
sort,
abilities and
with
stuff
different
too.
abilities and stuff like that, and one of you gets taken out, you've got to do basically a small quick time event in a way
Yep.
to get back into it before your other character dies, and then that resets the scenario. Um, but yeah, in terms of that, like it's 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 pretty good. I mean, it's very very good what they've done. The setting's great. It looks really good. Plays well. Yeah. Um, you're right. It does set up something that's interesting to play around ownership and copyright and all that kind of stuff, as we sort of
Yeah.
talked about before with all the AR meta lawsuit stuff. But yeah, it's too early. It's
Joseph
too
Fares doesn't have the best track record of sticking the landing on his narrative setups.
No, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in terms of um, yeah, in terms of the story overall, yeah, who knows if they will stick the landing.
Yeah.
Um, it's again using the same well, not mechanic, same. How to describe it? You bought the
Mechanism.
game. I don't have to buy it. I'm playing off a
Yeah.
friends
The
pass
Friends
thing. It's
Pass.
the same thing they did
Which
with.
they're doing that with that Lego Journeys or something later this year, I think. The other thing I will say is that when they put like stuff in the environment that either looks like it should be interactable, or you just go, I wonder if I can do this. 9.5 times out of 10, you can.
Mm.
There's like a little hopscotch track, and it's like, okay, cool, we'll do that. Like you jump the hopscotch, nothing happens. You don't get an achievement for that, but it's still neat.
Yeah, I think
And
it's sort of been so far missing from it is I don't know how they set up in the environment from memory, but in It Takes Two there were like little sort of challenge things that you could do that were I'm not too sure.
sort of semi-competitive.
Sort of yeah, it's like you could jump. Like there was ones where you could like
There was a jump rope one or
a
some shit.
jump
I want
rope
to
run
say.
or something where you had to sort of jump, get the timing right to do that. There was one where you were shooting guns at like a gallery of stuff, and whoever.
Yeah.
So they've had those things in it, but they were. I think the reason why they probably haven't got them in this game is they would be weird in the scenario they've created. The one thing.
Yeah, you don't have the like Zoe and Mio don't have that relationship where a
there's no
competitive
relationship
little
with
thing.
them each other, so there's no competitive balance. Competitive balance isn't right either. There's no
Friendly competition. There's not that relationship there
Yeah.
between the two.
And also because you're going from one place to another, like one complete different environment to another, whereas It Take Two was being played in the entire environment.
I don't think we've mentioned the actual narrative setup. So, like, both Zoe and Mio are fiction writers. Mio is very much sci-fi focused. Zoe is very much a fan of fantasy and writes as such. They happen upon a quote-unquote career or business opportunity at a large publishing house where they step into a bubble, and it's going to take the idea that they submit, or they're sold as, it's going to take the idea that they submitted and turn it into an actual legit story. Mio goes, nah, man, fuck this. This is some messed up shit here. I mean, she doesn't say it that way. And then one thing leads to another, and she ends up in the same bubble as Zoe. So their environments and their ideas get blended and switched constantly and stuff like that, which is where you find the deeper level of the message coming in, which I don't want to say right now. I think the other thing about that the lack of the competitive little mini games, I think that's also replaced by the side stories.
Yeah, but the side story is also based on just the story.
It's just a different concept of the story.
Like you've got the main, so the game will basically, as per the sort of the thing, it's splitting, as literally by the name, splitting. It's going between fantasy, sci-fi, and each time you're in the sci-fi thing, you're doing a story that Mio wrote,
or thought of, or conceptualized,
or even had a put down on bits of paper.
I
think this might be a bit of a story to have. And the side stories are small chunks of something she wrote but didn't finish, sort of thing. But they did the started it, sort of thing. And that's what the side stories are. So, but they're just part of the narrative. The overall story still is sort of been playing out in the main missions, and you do these side stories to jump into these small ones, which can still take 25, 35 minutes to get through before you come out of them back into the overall story.
The main,
The
yeah.
main story.
They are quite clever, though.
Yeah, oh, they are. They're quite good. And they set up...
Being a piggy and then becoming a sausage.
Yeah, yeah. But they're also setting up the background of each character in a very sort of subtle way. Like
yeah, it's not very overt.
You're not being told I like this and this is what I've done and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You're getting their personalities and their traits and all that kind of stuff through the fact they wrote these weird stories. Like the one you just mentioned, that was one that Zoe wrote as like a 6 or 7
6-year-old or some shit. Yeah.
That she wrote where she played out this really weird idea in her head. And they turned that into a pretty neat little mechanic that we had to play through.
Yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, so then it turns into that sort of a dynamic between the two of them.
Bit harsh, but yeah, it's pretty funny though.
Yeah. So I think the side stories is where you're going to get the character development, so to speak, and their interaction between each other is going to grow from that.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to learn to live with each other's weird story, the main story they've all written.
Yeah.
That you're sort of mainly swapping back and forth between. So.
And there's no stupid fucking book trying to force them to learn lessons and shit.
No, but I think they're going to learn it just by the nature of the playing.
Oh, it'll happen in a sort of similar way, but it's not being beaten over your head like It Takes Two did.
Yeah. I think the way they're telling the story is way cleaner and better than what they do with It Takes Two.
I think they put a lot more thought and consideration into that, because that was one of the main... Of the criticisms I saw for It Takes Two, that was really one of the bigger ones, is that they basically go...
Wait a sec.
Like, it's just that thing... What's that?
When I switched the thing, your audio cut out for some stupid reason.
Oh, that's not good. And I'm not there on the thing either. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But anyway. It's good.
Yes.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah, I mean,
so what have you been playing?
Yeah, how are you playing? Sleuth Fishing. Yeah, let's talk about Sleuth Fishing.
What's that about?
I think it's definitely better than the first one. So the ones they've made It Takes Two, and the way before that was
No Way Out.
A Way Out, thank you.
A Way Out or No Way Out?
I think it was A Way Out or No Way Out, one of the two.
Maybe I'm getting mixed up with the WWE pay-per-view. It was A Way Out.
A Way Out, yeah. That was a sort of Prison Break style thing from memory.
That was... Because Joseph Fares did one of the voices on one of those characters like that Eastern European, forget about it.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'm really enjoying the bit we played.
This is that number 3 ranked game on Open Critic so far. 90% overall.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to continue playing it. Cool.
What the?
So this is
Spoilers.
This thing on the screen here. This is what they call the glitch.
Yeah.
And that's how they change from each story style from the other. So the current one, that current particular art shot, is inside the fantasy of Zoe's mind or Zoe's story.
When Mio comes in on this scene, Zoe's like, "What the fuck are you? How the fuck did?" I mean, obviously she's not. I think Mio is the type to drop an F-bomb.
I think she probably would, yeah.
I don't think we'll get that out of Zoe, but she's very much like, what are you doing here?
I think eventually you might get one out of Zoe. I think she'd work up to it.
I can see that. Mio rubbing off on her.
But eventually she'll go like that and go, fuck this.
I do like the costuming design and stuff in the two different environments too.
Oh yeah, they've done the way the worlds they've created, the two different worlds they've created are really, really unique and really cool.
I think they've done a really good job on the art design.
Yeah, when they switch
and the technical stuff too.
When they switch from one to the other, they're sort of it's quick to do it, but also they sort of morph into their costume of the one that they just walked into. So you sort of see that's the sci-fi stuff.
We haven't seen that yet, just quietly.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of this stuff yet. Not all this stuff. So good god.
Oh god. Hey, that was from that. That was one of the last things we saw.
That was one of the things we did. So this is one of the wall running and So in the sci-fi thing, Zoe's character's got this like sword thing she can use, and you've got some sort of lasso thing.
Mio's got the sword, Zoe's got the gravity whip.
Zoe's got sort of a grappling hook, lasso thing. God. Oh, that's the pig one. Yeah, that was cool.
The piggy!
The piggy!
Where you had massively powered farts and I was a spring.
That's right. I could move around with farting, yeah. And that was, as I said, like that's like the way they've... the way they set up these little short story things and the way they set up what you do, they're still giving you, still maintaining that each character's got their own ability to do things to progress it. So they've, and I think that's where that's doing stuff. I think that's really quite clever what they've done because it runs just writing. Because with It Takes Two, I can't remember which character had what ability now, but that ability stayed with you for the entire time. You had the same one for the entire game.
There was good variety to it, but they've all the actual variety and the way it actually works mechanically is, I think, stronger than It Takes Two. Because there were some times in It Takes Two where the different abilities, one was very much more interesting than the other.
Yeah. And
whereas here it's not as much that case.
But in It Takes Two, you had that for the entire game.
Yeah.
And that's all you had. There might be some variations of it, but in this game, they've given us so far, we've had the main one, which is what we were looking at earlier. Then you've had the farting and the
bees,
the pig one, and there was a third one. What's the first one we had? Where we some sort of did what was the first side story we did? It was like we were on the back of a creature or something, wasn't it? I can't remember what it was now, but that was a different ability. Yeah, I think it was a different ability again. So I think there might be more, like, I think they're going to get rid of the little mini games, for want of a better term, and then replace them with.
They're going to replace them with a dog barking. What a time for. They're going to replace those competitive mini games.
Someone's at the door. Sorry.
I'm
back.
There we go.
We've got our election coming up in a couple of weeks, so door knocking.
Oh, yeah, right, there is too.
He chose to pick Sunday afternoon at 4:30 to knock on my door.
During a podcast recording. You need to put a note on the door. Recording a podcast, fuck off!
So, my doorbell decided to bark, which is what he does.
Oh, right, yes. I was like, your doorbell barks? That's weird.
Yeah.
And then I remembered what you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's we had that little interruption.
It was really well timed, though. Replaced with... Anyway.
All right.
Split Fiction seems like it could be really, really good.
Yeah, has a lot of potential. That's for sure. Right, let's jump into...
The Games of July.
While you do that, I'm going to set this up.
There we go. Upcoming games. Podcast view. There we go. Oh, wait, what? No, hang on. That one's wrong. That's not out yet, is it?
Alrighty.
I need to check this because I don't know if that's actually out yet. I don't think it is.
It may not be, but it's not. I did a check of it this morning, so.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is Recharge, and this is a game that I think I was probably when they put it on this list from a while back.
You played the demo for this.
I played the demo of this probably a month back now, maybe 2 months.
29th of July is when it's supposed to come out.
Oh, I did a check of it this morning, and it didn't refresh to that. That's cool. Yeah. So basically, from years ago, and when I say years ago, I'm talking
PlayStation 1.
25 years ago, 30 years ago, there was a game called Revolt.
Yes. It was on the Dreamcast.
I played it on PC with that, yeah. I think this game is trying to be that, I think.
Sure does look like it.
So, yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how this one comes out.
Because you did play the demo of this, I think.
Yeah, I played the demo of this a couple of months back. And
during an Next Fest of some kind.
And I played an awful lot of Revolt when it was out years and years ago. One of my favourite games back then. So, yeah, so looking forward to seeing if that actually comes out and
how it
sticks the landing, for one of a better term, for a racing game. But yeah, looks really neat.
Yeah.
Islanders, new short. This obviously is this a
This is a new game for Islanders.
Islanders, is it expansion or just a whole new game?
I believe it is a just straight up new semi-sequel.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there've actually been quite a few of the games like this where you get points based on placement of buildings and stuff like that, based on what's adjacent to you. Islanders was one of the first ones of those I played, and probably the most quote-unquote chill. But I really dug Islanders and what it did. And this seems to be expanding that formula pretty significantly, particularly based on these screenshots.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's out in a couple of days as of both the time of recording and time of publication. So, very curious how well this sticks to landing. And it's also coming to basically everything. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. I'd be curious about controller usage on this, because I think it's much more a mouse-driven game, but
I think
it could work well.
Looking at this, I think they've changed it a fair bit to what Islanders was, so probably they've made it so the controllers will work. Yeah. No, very cool. Great name for the next one. Shooty robot.
Oh, fuck yeah, it is. It's a great name. It's also got a really unique and neat look to it too.
Yeah, it's like
sort of like an animated looking art style for a first-person shooter roguelike. Mr. Manager, that's also a screen. That's pretty great. There are some of these first-person roguelikes that come out and they do really, really well. There are some that come out and they're just way too repetitive, and I go, we'll find out which bucket this one falls into. Like I said, the name is fucking fantastic, though. Dave Lang's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. I played the demo of this on Friday Night Fun last week before. I had to go into the streamer mode and change the music because we got dinged for when CKY's 96 quite bitter beings played. The one concern I had was the change in the career progression for Tony Hawk's 4. It used to be an open environment. You run around, you find people, talk to them, and then you get goals, and then you have the time to do the goals. Whereas here, they're just making it pretty standard. 2 minutes total. Here's the goals. Go and do them. I was like, what? No, fuck that. But then I played the demo, and maybe those levels just weren't as big as I remember them being, perhaps. But it looked fucking fantastic. They've done a really good job updating it, modernizing it. Bam is in this one, Bam Margera. He has not had the best of runs in the last few years, but Tony Hawk put his foot down and said no. I thought it played really well. It is going to be on Game Pass.
Okay, interesting.
As it's an Activision game, so a Microsoft game.
Makes sense, yep.
Because the demo was playable for those who pre-ordered, or it was playable on Game Pass.
Oh, okay.
So that worked all right.
Eric's Home Stolen Dream is a game that's you can get a demo of it now, I believe it's still active on the Steam Next Fest, Summer Fest, whatever it's called. This is basically your tactic style games. Think Shadow Gambit, Desperado,
me
sort of games, but doesn't have any. So far, has no combat, so it's all a stealth game primarily.
Demo is still available, just quietly.
Cool. So it's worth having a look because the setting's really neat. It looks really cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one coming out, and that's only out in a couple of weeks' time, so it's cool.
That'll be... Oh, I was going to say end of this week, but no. I wish I was better at those games, but I fucking suck at them and get too impatient. Remember RoboCop Rogue City and how fucking awesome that was? They're putting a semi-standalone DLC out that's... I heard it described... This is a really apt description, though. The Raid mixed with RoboCop. You rock up in an apartment building, you're working your way up and shooting fools while you do it. I really... apparently this came out in 1970 on the Mac.
On the Mac, yeah.
I really liked Rogue City. That was such a surprise in the year it came out. There's no way that thing should have worked as well as it did. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yep.
So we'll see.
RoboCop Rogue City is massively on sale on the Steam sale.
Yeah, it is. Part of the Steam sale, it's like less than $10.
Yeah, so if you haven't done that game, seriously jump.
Fuck yeah, go and play it. It's good. Shadow Labyrinth. It is a search action game where you have a floating Pac-Man. I'm an idiot. I pre-ordered this because when you pre-ordered it, you got a quote-unquote retro sound effects pack, which I think would be really stupid. But I've heard relatively positive things out of preview events and stuff that have come out around this. Does it stick the landing? Who can say?
Mm-hmm.
But it's at least they're doing something new and different, particularly around Pac-Man. They don't call him Pac-Man in the game; it's Puck, which I think was the UK name that they ended up using for Pac-Man. But I have that pre-ordered. We'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a EU game.
Yes, the Drifter. So this is a game that I played at PAX 2023, I think.
Really?
Yes, yeah, 2023 is when I played this. I didn't go last year. Yeah. This is an Australian-made game.
Power hoof.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's basically a point-and-click adventure. Think like LucasArts style games from decades ago. The voice actor sounds like Brian Brown, but it isn't. So it's really, really good. I even actually, when I was playing it, said I turned around to the developers. Is this Brian Brown? He said, no, it's not. I know it sounds like him, but it's not.
We just hired some dude who sounds like him.
Who just sounds like him. So actually, he's one of the developers. Apparently, just sounds like him. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a standard point-and-click adventure game, but it looks really fucking awesome, and it's played.
Yeah, the pixel art style on it's fantastic, but particularly the LucasArts style of point and click, I cannot wrap my head around the puzzles.
Yeah, I think this one might be more in that direction. So we'll see. We might even. I'm tempted to maybe we do this as a series, but we'll see how we go. But we'll see how we go. But yeah, it's really this has been coming soon for ever since I put it on my wish list. When it was at PAX, and only about maybe 3 weeks ago, they put a date on it. So it's really, looking forward to this game big time.
Misk! This was me.
This was
a tiny tail. You're a little robot, and you're running around doing. It's like a 3D platformer, but you're a little robot, and it seems like it could be really neat. A tiny tail suggests somewhat short. Hey?
The visual looks really neat.
Yeah. It's like all found objects and stuff. And look at the cute little robot. How good is that? And there's a screen where you can put hats and shit on him. Like, how can you not enjoy putting hats and scarves and shit on a little robot? What sort of fucking monster would you be? Anyway. This has been kicking around, or at least being shown for quite a few years. Wheel World. It did have the name Ghost Bike. But it's an Annapurna joint, or at least Annapurna published. You have a bike that is inhabited with a ghost, and you ride around the environment, kind of adventure-ish style. And it has a fucking incredible art style to it. It's just a matter of does the gameplay and the story hold up? You get into bike races. The other thing for me will be what the control factor behind the bike riding is. If it's like continually mashing a button, that'll be annoying. But if you just hold the right trigger down the pedal, that'll be... Yeah. But that's close to the end of the month. Let's roll past this, because this just in the last couple of days got delayed. To like either September or December.
Okay.
Another Souls-like. This one looks fucking cool as shit. I don't know. It's not Team Ninja. It's not from. So one of the rare, potentially Incredibles may be a little too positive, but much like Lies of P, a non-Team Ninja, non-From Soft Souls-like. This one being Japanese in origin, and from the video and stuff I've seen, quite a little bit more faster and a little bit more fluid. Yeah. I think I played the demo of this on a Friday Night Fun. I'm pretty sure I did. And it's kind of deck buildery, but it's with dice.
Okay.
But it's actually a little bit more interesting than just that sounds. There was a really neat hook to it when I played it. I'm like, this is really, really cool. Like, you can do different, like the key art there suggests you can paint the dice in different ways with different effects and change the numbers on the dice for different effects. That third screenshot has seven digits on a dice side, which when the fuck do you ever see a dice that's got 7 on it? Unless it's a D20 or something. Never! So that could be, if it's priced right, really interesting.
Mm.
And I think this is the last game on the list. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Between this and the new Shinobi that's coming out, which looks very similar, I'm really looking forward to this. 2D action platformer, not a search action style Metroidvania, a little bit more pure level based.
Yeah.
But not quite so, being made by, again, Team Ninja, which used to have the Ninja Gaiden license, or initially made the initial Ninja Gaiden game, so maybe not as fucked hard as the NES one was.
Yeah, maybe.
And it seemed to be it has a little bit more focus on combat than... Not that Ninja Gaiden initially didn't have combat in it. It did. But it was way more about the platforming challenge and interspersing that with, like, birds that do really fucked up patterns that get in the way if you jump. So here's hoping another Dotemu game. Another Dotemu release that's an old stashing game. So fingers crossed. That is quite good.
That'll wrap up the games of July that we're looking forward to. Let's move to the beginning of the end. We have the usual platforms of YouTube and Twitch, for twitch.com enemy starship, I believe you're...
Twitch.tv, you were so close.
Oh, Twitch.tv. I'm sure if you went to twitch.com, you'd get there. You'd probably get there, wouldn't you? Redirect.
Let's find out.
Surely to redirect. Sure.
Not Twitch.fuck. Twitch.com. Yeah, Twitch.com just goes straight to that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'd have to be surprised if it didn't do
I actually figured out last night how the YouTube address actually works. It's youtube.com/@ should I play this game 64. So yeah.
So you'll be streaming there multiple times during the next couple of weeks, I imagine, because you've 2 weeks off.
Friday Night Fun and the Saturday versions will continue. I will do at least a couple of holiday hangouts. One of them, almost guaranteed, will be me starting Claire Obscura. There is a part of me that's considering doing one after we finish recording, and I'm going to look at some zombie type games. There's been a couple of those, and Dead Island 2, Dying Light 2. I've been curious about checking that out for a while, and I figured, well, I don't know, I'll see how I go. Sometimes, most of the time, there's not much plan to it. It's just like, I'm going to fire it up, and I'm going to play stuff. Nah. Last couple of weeks, man, I've been able to cut my fucking backlog in half. Just like going through some of the shit I've bought or came out of early access. I look at it and go, play for a bit. Yep, nope, this ain't great. Which has been way more of a feature of the last few weeks, unfortunately. But yeah, some neat things that have come up, and we'll keep. I went back to Doom Eternal on the Saturday version this week. So yeah, maybe continue playing that. We'll see. I don't know. You can never tell.
Mystery bag.
It's always an adventure.
All right. In that case, we'll wrap this one up.
Wait.
Thanks for joining us for the 322nd episode of the Should I Play This Game podcast for the 7th of July. We should, all things being equal, be back in a fortnight for the next episode. In the meantime, stuff on Steve's stuff. We'll try and do the next part of the to-be-named series on Split Fiction. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. And until then, until the next podcast, have a good one. Goodbye.
Peace out, y'all.